Hi, everyone. My name is Vicki Vicars, and I serve as the Vice President of Operations for Thrive Mahoning Valley. Chris brought me on, Chris Cologne, our Executive Director and co-founder, about 2.5 years ago to do some development and grant writing. At that point, they decided that they wanted to grow Thrive. They started in 2018 by resettling families displaced by the hurricane in Puerto Rico. And they had a bilingual resource guide to help those families and individuals find housing and employment and transportation and medical services. And that kind of settled down, and COVID hit. And then after COVID, they had to decide which direction Thrive was going to go in. So at that time, one of our board members was connected with Welcoming America. Welcoming America is an international organization, primarily in our country, but it is also international, that works with immigrants and refugees in weaving them into the fabric of our community and uplifting the positive impact that they make on our communities in this country and abroad. So we got connected with them and discovered that that was the direction that we wanted to go in, really to do some work around Mahoning Valley with immigrants and refugees at that time. One of the first things we did was found what we at that time called the Mahoning Valley Immigration Coalition, and since then we've named it the Newcomers Network. But we reached out to every organization we could think of that in some way touched the lives of immigrants in the Valley and brought them all together so that they could meet each other, see what each other's doing, in the community. And then we also did a SWOT analysis, what needs were being met, what goals were accomplished, and where were the cracks, where were the missing links, where were people falling through, or what were we missing in, again, uplifting and serving those immigrants in our community. So one of the things that came out of that was legal services, particularly for those folks who were here either on with green cards or student visas or work authorization who wanted to pursue citizenship. So with the blessing of our board and with the Newcomers Network, our agency is pursuing Department of Justice accreditation to be a partial representative for immigration law, which means it will be able to do that status adjustment for people who need it. Originally, we can help with some removal proceedings and things in front of the USCIS and the BIA. We'll see how that goes with some of the new laws and things in place right now, what our abilities will be. But that accreditation we're hoping to have by this summer, which was really needed because the one legal immigration attorney in town is retiring, and the closest ones are Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Akron area. So hopefully we can work with them and again, provide some of those services to folks pursuing citizenship here. And the Newcomers Network has done some other things. They are helping. One of the initiatives of Welcoming America is for cities to become certified welcoming. That's a national standard based on 7 framework points. And so we are relying on the Newcomers Network to help us fill out and evaluate those points. And we're doing this in conjunction with the city of Youngstown. The whole certified welcoming has to be led by a government entity. So the city of Youngstown is working on that with us. And we're a little over halfway through the process and hope to accomplish our first star credentials by this fall. The Newcomers Network, the goals kind of switched gears with this new administration, our new presidential administration, and we went from how do we welcome and include immigrant families to how do we protect them and how do we help prepare them for possible ICE raids or mass deportation. So along with that, we've really talked about what our feelings are, what our goals are. And I would say that within our Thrive community, with our board, with the network, with a lot of the nonprofits that we work with, that we collaborate with, they see the dignity and the beauty in every person that crosses our border and every immigrant, no matter where they're from. And they want to hold the government accountable for due process, right? For immigration reform that respects their journey and allows them to pursue a home that is secure where they can raise their families and contribute to the community. And then, of course, we meet with opposition to that. People who think that simply because they're here undocumented, because anybody's here undocumented, that makes them illegal. And I think 99.9% of our team and the folks we work with would say no person is illegal, right? They might not have the proper paperwork at the time, but they deserve to pursue happiness just like anybody else. So along those lines, there are those of us in the community that are working to fight some of the legislation that is harmful to immigrants and to families. And so the HB 42, for example, in the Ohio state legislation, we've got talking points and working against that and calling our state senators and representatives to fight that. We're keeping an eye on the detention centers in our county as well as across the state to make sure that they are reporting things factually and that the folks that are there are being treated with respect and dignity. Newcomers Network, certified welcoming. Ariana talked about Thrive Link and Bikes for Newcomers program. We also, really recognize that there are people here in the community today who, while they're lifelong residents, might feel like outsiders, might feel like they've missed opportunities that others in the Valley have had. So we're really working to include them also in the workforce, with education, and just with the social fabric of this community. So we're doing community meals just to get to know them and find out what their needs are. We've worked with some employers in the area, and we're part of the Assembly of Workforce Development to address some of the barriers for all people who are seeking employment. But in our case, particularly those who might not speak English. So we've worked with a few businesses to translate applications, policy handbooks, directions on how to operate machinery so that they can hire non-English speaking employees. And we've done some community education on the benefits of the immigrants in the workforce, development. So we're really proud of that work and want to continue to do it.
You talked about 7 points.
The 7 points are for certified welcoming. So how do we do with language access, with education, with civic engagement, with leadership, law enforcement? That was a really interesting one. But our local law enforcement really has no policy in place that specifically targets immigrants. If a person is arrested because of domestic violence or traffic violation or something like that, then there might be some questions, but they can't be arrested. An officer's not going to walk up to somebody and just say, I want to see your papers. Our local law enforcement. So we actually passed that category, and I was happy with that. And we need to do some more work on it. There needs to be more relationship building between the police, local police, and our communities. One of the things they said was that they have several community officers that speak Spanish, as well as some administration personnel, within the Youngstown City Police Department that speak Spanish, that are bilingual.
That's excellent.
Yeah, right. And that's good to know. I think I knew of one officer, but there are multiple. So
it bodes well for future interactions.
Absolutely. And those 7 points are national standard points. So
is it listed anywhere on any websites?
Yeah, I can give you them. I can email you the questions that we had to answer. And we're still working on it. We had a meeting with an auditor 2 weeks ago. She'll file her report. Then the national office has 2 months to kind of do a little more digging into our area. And then we have 6 months to respond and fill out the blank spaces. Like the one question on education, we just had the wrong person on the call who couldn't answer all the questions because the Youngstown City Schools has a English language learner specialist that works across all the schools and works with all the families. But the person we had on the interview just didn't know that and couldn't talk about it. So it's about getting the right people involved. And that's why I'm relying on our Newcomers Network, because they know more about the community than I do. And they know things that I don't know. So it's a group effort.